is Petri here. Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks so much for coming by. We're doing beautiful boats today in a harbor, and we have some buildings in the distance over here and distant mountains, some figures in the boats. It makes this painting so much fun to do. We have so much excitement and so many things going on in this painting. And as I mentioned too, more recently, I'm going to have the actual reference photograph that I'm using, which is actually a painting I did about 5 years ago. So I'm going to have that up here on the screen the whole time, so you can use that as a reference if you need to as well. But we'll show everything that you need to do for the pencil drawing as well as the painting here, the mixing of the colors, and all the techniques that you would need to do along the way to get this painting completed. So you're really going to have a great time, and I know you'll enjoy this, especially if you like boats and water scenes and things like that, coastal scenes. You're going to really have a fun time. So let's get started, okay? All right, so we're getting started now. We just saw the finished painting, and I think maybe just for those of you that might want to use maybe a screenshot or a screen capture of the painting we're going to do. This is a previous painting I did maybe 5 years ago or so. There's plastic over it. It's inside of a portfolio bag I have. Portfolio case, and it's in plastic, and it's all taped in there so that it doesn't move around. So I didn't want to remove everything out of my portfolio case. But this is the painting. It'll be just a couple simple sailboats docked and anchored, and there's a little couple buildings in the distance across the river or bay or inlet here. So we can use our imagination as artists. You can create your own ideas on what type of water this is here, and I think when I created this originally, I just used a picture of a river. I think the river near my home and the Hudson River. So I used the Hudson River, a photo of that for the background, and then I used another photograph of some sailboats, and I kind of put the two photographs together and kind of pieced it together in my own way and came up with this type of a composition. So you can always mix and match photographs if you want. It's always good to think of it as when you're building let's say a composition, you might just think of it as, well, I have a really cool picture of some sailboats, but it's all water and there's no land behind them. And if you wanted to have some land behind them, you might say, well, I can maybe find a photograph, picture in a magazine or online on the internet to enhance the painting to make it look a little more interesting perhaps. So that's what I did to just enhance the interesting feel of this painting. So we're going to do this, and again, I just wanted to zoom in on that so you can kind of see closer what it looks like. And I remember at the time too, which was interesting, is I was painting, and someone, I was on YouTube at the time, and someone mentioned about interesting thing to do is to add like brown burnt umber to paints like blues and greens to sort of gray them down a little bit and make it look a little more mellow. Sometimes straight colors like French ultramarine blue, or sometimes like sap green. Colors like this, sometimes they're a little too strong at times. Depends how much you use of it in a painting, but used in large quantities, sometimes those colors can get a little bit strong to some people's opinion, and when they're viewing paintings, they might not like that. So this painting, I remember, was like an experimentation of trying to add some burnt umber to my blues and greens to make it look a little more mellow. So it does look kind of nice. It has more of a calmer, peaceful type feeling with the colors, a little subdued, which is nice too. But I like really bright, exciting colors myself, but this was like an experiment, and so I still like to, once in a while, do some mixing and graying down of paints and things like that. It's just a part of the painting process. You have to decide as an artist if you want to gray down your colors a little bit here and there. So we'll do that. I'll move this over here. I'll zoom back out again. We'll get our setup all good. So I'll try to get that in. Okay, and then I'll put my plastic over the top of my phone so that it stays without any splashes on it. And then we have that. And again, this is an extreme beginners video, so we're using more of a simple watercolor set. We're using the Prang Oval 16 set. I'm excited about this set. I've been using these for years, but I finally started kind of using them on YouTube because I figured, might as well share some great, stuff with everybody. But they're great. They're just simple Prang Oval 16 watercolor, semi-moist watercolors. The reason they're so great is you just open it up, spray with a little bit of water to moisten up the paints, and in 2 minutes later you're ready to paint. Versus if I'm using tube paints, a lot of times I gotta kind of spray them down and then close them up and put them in a bag and put them in the refrigerator so that the paints don't dry out. So these are more user-friendly if you want to just do quick paintings. These are the ones to do a lot of practice on. If you want to do a lot of practice with your watercolor, great paints to use too as well. But I would also use tube paints and practice with those because those are different, and it's good to kind of get the feel for both this type of painting with sets like this, but the paint that you're going to use, the tube paints eventually, if you're really sticking with watercolors and you really love it and you're going to be doing more watercolors and maybe doing some paintings for people and selling paintings and putting stuff in galleries and whatever mission you're on and whatever you're doing in your art career. Everyone's different out there, I realize. So you all have your different goals with your art. Some of you just want to paint for fun as a hobby, and that's great too. But the thing is with tube paints, they look better. They're more permanent. They will last a long time. They give you more vibrant, exciting color. This is more of a softer pastel-y kind of color to these type of paintings when we use these paints. So it's just like a different look, and again, it's a little more budget friendly, and just wanted to mention that. But I use these again now more frequently because I just enjoy the look of the paint. So we'll do our drawing, and I'm going to use this as my subject matter. First thing I'll do is I'll just do a nice border around my paper so I know where my border is going to be for my painting. So I'll do that, and then I'm going to look at the space divisions of this painting and say, well, the top of the mountains behind the buildings are about halfway, so that's a good real light pencil line across, and I can kind of get that flow of the hills behind like this. That's halfway, and then a short bit down from there, just a little bit, there's the shoreline, distant shoreline. So these are not real huge mountains or anything, just a decent ridge or hill with buildings. And then we can just, so what I'll do is I'll quickly just get my hash marks here. Halfway is the top of the mountain on the paper, half. Then, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches down is the shoreline, distant shoreline across the river or lake or bay. And then from there, we go down and we say that the boats are about 2/3 of the way down to the bottom. Here, the bottom of the boats are about 2/3 of the way down. So if we broke this into thirds and said 1/3 here, 1/3 here, and the last third here, more like this, that would be the bottom of the boats. So I'll do that there. And the boats are a little bit like that. I'm doing very light sketching. I'm going to do, just to break it down one more time, halfway down the paper or halfway up the paper is your mountains, the distant mountain range. And then about 1.5 inches down from there is your shoreline, 1.5 inches, 2 inches, about 1 inch, 1.5 inches, 2 inches. Then down here we have the boats, and then over here the water below the boats. So let's see, that looks pretty good. So again, halfway mountaintop, inch down from there, shoreline, distant shoreline, and then we go down from the distant shoreline about 2/3 of the way or halfway approximately, and that's the bottom of the boats there. And so I have my very light sketch lines just to give me a guide of where everything has to be lining up on my rectangle, and we're good. And then we're going to start our drawing here. So let's I'm going to notice that my first and largest boat is going to be right in the 2/3, or I should say this is about like this. So this is like that. That comes down like that. And I think there's a little more of a an angle or curve to this line. So I'm gonna just do a like that, just that little more of a curve there. Then here we have another boat behind this one. And this one here is like so. And halfway up from the bottom of this boat is the bottom of this boat. Like that. And then here we're looking at the reflection in the water. It's a very calm bit of water here, so we're going to see a good amount of reflection in the water of this boat, the white boat in the water. And same with this one here. We're going to do this painting very loose. We're not going to get too, super accurate. We just want to get the basics of it. We'll keep this a little bit abstract. And then we're going to have the lines on the boat, the paint stripes on the boat. And like that. So maybe this goes in like so. Boats are pretty difficult to draw, the shapes and everything, but don't get worried. You got to practice them a lot. I think I didn't really draw this one so phenomenal in my original here. So, and I am working from this, so it's, if I'm working from something that might be a little bit off on some angles and this and that, it's just you got to chalk it up to everything's not perfect. So we're going to work with what we have here and just be happy with it. And so this is the other boat over here. And then now that we have these boats in, they look good. We have a little more of a reflection on this one too. Let's say this one's a little more, there might be some more boats over here on the left, putting some shadows onto this boat. You can add in shadows pretending that there's something on outside of the picture frame or outside of the rectangle, outside of your painting. So don't be afraid to get imaginative and put things in that maybe are not necessarily there. And so the boats are good. Then we're going to put the masts in. Now the masts we can do with a ruler. I think that'll be good to do with a ruler, just to get maybe a super light sketch line. I might do that, a super light sketch line, and then we'll draw it in by hand just to give it a little more of a looser feel to it. So this one here, let's say it was going to be a little bit of an angle this way. All the masts are going to go straight up through the picture frame and out of the picture frame. And now I'm going to draw these by hand, and let's just do that. And again here, I just take my hand, rest it on the paper, set the pencil down on the paper, and then slide my hand and just hold the pencil on the paper lightly and just slide my hand down straight down the paper, and you can get a pretty good line that way. It's hard to do that with a paintbrush because once you're painting, you can't lean your hand into the paint so much unless you let it dry 100%. You got to practice different techniques. I always suggest that, to try to practice different techniques as much as you can. So for this one, I'm going to have to move my phone out of the way for a second so we can get this one in. And just slide our hand down. So these are the masts. And I forgot to say here, these are some, we have some, over here I don't think there was any. There's some tarps. Maybe there's a tarp in this one here. I thought we had a couple tarps in here on these. Yep. Like that. We'll put tarps on these. Maybe the boats are just starting to get prepped for the season. So they're working on them. We'll put some figures in here too, and we'll have some rigging too. So we'll just take some light pencil lines and just kind of sketch a couple really super light pencil lines like this. You might even just leave the pencil lines in the painting and not necessarily, you might not have to paint them. Light pencil line might work good for that. Just leaving it like that. And then we're going to have our background here. Again, there's a distant shoreline, and there's some buildings back here. Let's do those. So I'm just going to go with the picture. And go with just some. These are just square shapes, rectangles, buildings in the distance, apartment buildings that are right along the water, overlooking the water, with some hills and trees and bushes all along the shoreline. And the buildings are set back away from the water a little bit. And let me see here. Momentary problem with photos. There we go. Okay. And then we have those distant hills. I'll probably just draw those in a little better or darker so you can kind of see those. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the I'm going to use the glazing technique for this painting. So we're going to use the glazing technique, and then we'll just remember to put some windows, just some tiny dots for windows. They're in the far distance over here. So we'll do that just to make sure we keep things looking accurate. Okay. So the drawing is complete. We're actually looking really good now. We got the pencil drawing done. We took this carefully, this painting that we have a photograph of. You can do this with any painting from any artist or whatever. You can copy mine, that's fine. Any other artist that might draw boats or anything, or whatever, if you're working from a photograph of an actual real boat from a magazine or online, whatever you want, no problem. I think the main thing is just to carefully look at the space divisions, and I think you'll be fine. You just try to, how far is that? Well, it's about halfway down the page. You know, get a light sketch line in for that. About an inch down here, we have the shoreline. Then coming down this way here, the boats are, centered almost in this space division of the bottom half. So if we could say the boats are sitting in the middle segment of the bottom half of the painting like that. And that's really all we have to worry about. Now we're ready to paint, so I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll get started. All right, so we're getting ready to do some wet into wet painting, the glazing technique. I'm going to also use a previous painting that we did probably about a month ago or more, but very recently. We did a painting of a house, and we're going to sort of use this same technique of getting on that first really light wash across the whole painting, and then going in after that and doing the darker darks over the top, the middle tonal values and the darker tonal values. We're going to do those super light wash first. We're going to wet the paper, let the water flow on down with the colors. Then the middle tones, as we dry this off 100% and come back in, we start doing the middle tones and the darker tones here, tonal values. And then that should be all we need to do to get this really rendered beautifully. Let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is, let me move my phone, because we're going to put a lot of water up top here, but we're going to put the phone back in a second. So I'm going to use a square brush or flat brush, and we're going to get fresh, clean water. So it can't be muddy at all. This is fresh, clean water, crystal clear for the most part. I mean, there's a little bit of color in there. I forget what but this is really essentially a clear, crystal clear water, like not hardly anything. I might have just cleaned one brush or something, before I started today, or I mean right now. So I'm going to take my brush. This is a synthetic flat brush, so it doesn't hold a ton of water, but enough water that we'll get our paper, and we'll just start sloshing on the water like so. I'm not sure if I turn up the light, if we can see it a little better, the water. Nope, that makes it worse. Okay, so I'm just putting a fair amount of water on the paper. I'm going to dampen and wet the whole paper. More at the top though, less at the bottom. So the bottom of the painting, I'm going to cover it with just one little light coat of water. Almost just like a light coating. And then up top, we're going to do a little heavier water, and we're going to add another little bit more up here. This way, when we start putting on our color, that water and the colors are going to flow on down the painting as we go. And we'll facilitate that with our brush. But that looks good. Now, one thing I should have done, and I should mention this, mix your colors first before you, please mix your colors for your sky, first wash, first glazing, before you wet the paper, because now's not a really great time to start mixing paints and colors. Then it's stressful because you just wet the paper, and then now it's like a race, you know, trying to figure out, is the paper going to dry, is it not going to dry. I added a little bit of brown into my colors here, my blues, so that it will look a bit more grayed down like we said we wanted to do. So we add some blue into brown into that blue, and then we can also leave some, we'll put some purple up here too. We're gonna have a little bit of purple and maybe a little bit of green too. Mix up lots of colors, have fun with this. And then also too, we're gonna add some orange, one of my favorite colors, high intensity colors in the warm family. The oranges are always beautiful, and yellows, and a little bit of red. So reds, yellows, orange. I really enjoy the warm colors just as much as the blue. I like all the colors. So that is good. We have all the colors mixed now, and we didn't take too much time. If you're just starting out with watercolor, don't get worried. Just do the process the other way. Before you wet your paper, like we just did, get your colors in your palette like this, all prepped and ready to go. So then when you wet your paper, you just relax, take your time, get the paper all saturated, and then you're ready to go. And then you've already got your colors here, and you don't have to worry about what colors am I going to mix. Uh-oh, what was all that kind of stuff. Don't worry. Once you have your, and then you just grab your paint that you mixed just like that. Add a little bit, then you can add a little bit of bright color there too, like that. So mix some grayish blues, and then get yourself some straight blues like that. And then we're going to facilitate it by kind of brushing it on down. Now we're going to get some of that orange. Let's get some orange mixing in that. Maybe a touch of red too. Let it all flow on down the paper, and then let it get lighter. And then when you get to the sailboats, go around those, and then remember back to your, we can go back, now I can put this back on the camera here. Now we remember there's a shadow side over here, so let's get some of that blue and purple. Let's get a shadow in over here, because we have those shadows over here, and we said it's like a mystery shadow over on this side. We have some mysterious shadowing over here on the left side of these boats. Like that. And we're going to go over with darker mixes too, darker washes after this. If some of it bleeds over to this, take a tissue and lift up so you keep that nice white crisp line around the bow of the boat. Like that. And Again, this is our first wash, but the sky wash stays the same. We're not going to change that at all or add anything to that. That sky wash came out good, and it has a nice feel of flowing on down the paper, the washes here. And this is more of an abstract type of painting, where you're just having fun with the glazing technique. So you're practicing the glazing technique. You know, you're taking the paints and the washes and colors, and we're going to remember to leave this boat white, the side of the boat. So let's lift up any paint there. It doesn't have to be perfectly like, it's okay that we had a little bit of wash go over it, as long as we pick up that paint off the boat, we're okay. And then there's the reflection in the water is white too, because the side of the boat is white, and then it reflects down into the water the same. So we want to keep that white, preserve that white paper both here and here. And then this area here is the same thing. The boat is white on this side. So I'll lift up some of that white like that, and then we're really in great shape. We have the first glazing done. So that is fun, right? Oh, this is great fun. All we had to do is just remember, mix the paints first, your colors, your blues, and then some of your oranges, and then go in and wet the paper, and then put in the colors and just let them flow on down the paper. I have a slight angle on my paper, about 15 degrees. It's about the thickness of a 2x4. So I have a board, a masonite board with some paper over top, so that it looks good with the white background here, the paper. But it's a board, and it's a 2x4 underneath it on the top of it. So it gives you that little bit of a slight angle, so when you're working with this type of painting, the paint will flow on down the paper nicely, not too fast, but just enough that it runs down and gives you that nice watercolor feel of the water, everything flowing down nice like that. So I hope you're enjoying this so far, and we're going to come back in just a minute once this all dries. So let's let this dry 100%, and we'll go back in and we'll get our darker tonal values in, the mountains in the background, and the stripes on the boat, the masts, and some of the other details, and we'll finish up. But this is pretty much, we're about halfway done now. Now we're going to wait for this to dry 100%. You can use a blow dryer to dry it off. I would recommend that if you want to get busy and get started again, and you don't want to wait like 2 hours or an hour. Usually it takes about an hour maybe to dry, or a little bit more. So we can use the blow dryer, and that will definitely help. So speed the process up. Okay, so I'm just doing a couple things, lightening up those buildings a little, so we can put some orange and maybe some yellow ochre on those buildings to make those look interesting. But I think so far we have a nice looking painting here. Tons of water, lots of fun, and we'll be back in just a second. All right, so we are getting back into the washes here. We noticed I used the hairdryer to dry off this painting. One thing to remember when you use the glazing technique and you use a lot of water, the watercolor paper does tend to buckle. So as you use a blow dryer to dry it, the more you just gently dry it and dry it and dry it, the paper will kind of straighten out pretty much. If you use watercolor blocks, which Arches makes, there's other brands that make it too, but these Arches pads, they're blocks of paper, and they're gummed on the edges. That black is gummed, so all the pages are actually gummed together, and you peel them off one at a time when you're done painting. But essentially these are pads of paper, right, watercolor paper, and when you're painting like a paper with painting with a lot of water, when you cover your whole sheet with water and flood like we're doing here, flooding this with water, when you leave your pad for a couple hours, it'll go back to perfectly flat like this, like as if you're just starting with a fresh piece of paper without any buckling. So these gummed pads actually save you the problem of worrying about buckled paper, because eventually when they dry, and you can use a blow dryer on these pads as well, but when it completely dries 100%, it'll have your paper stretch back out perfectly flat and smooth. So I just have some tape around the edges of my paper, just in the corners here, as you can see. I can deal with it. I've dried it enough that it's somewhat, some buckling, but not too much. And we'll work with it because it's not too bad for this type of painting, actually. That the paper's a little buckled. I don't think it's going to be difficult to work with. So I think the first thing we're going to do is let's do the masks, because the paper is now 100% dry, so we can use our hand on the paper and rest our hand on this paper and use the same method that we did with the pencil, where you just drag your hand along the paper and brush on the color. So best thing to do now is to go in with a paper towel and mop up any excess water and wash that we had from the original wash, which was lots of water. And I'm just going to blot it up. We can leave the colors in there, so because we're going to be using the same colors. We're going to repeat all the same colors in the darker washes. So we're going to get some brown here for our masks, some orange, some brown, maybe a little bit of blue, but mostly brown, and some orange, like that. Maybe a little bit of red too, and some blue. So we're going to make a mixture of blues and grays, using the brown to gray down, leaving some more brighter, higher intensity as well. And we're going to do our masks, and I'm going to actually do upstrokes on this. So I'm going to do this, start off, and then just slide my hand up like this, and then stop about there. Maybe get a little bit of light on the mask with lifting up with a little bit of tissue. Then I'll pick up some more high intensity color here, so we'll make a little more high intensity color there. Maybe a little bit of orange. Charge in a little bit of orange to the mast if we want. And then up here, maybe some yellow for a yellow ochre type color. Like that. Again, we can lift up a little bit like that. Give ourselves a little bit of light sunshine bouncing off that. Maybe we add in a little bit of yellow and like a yellow ochre type color down here. Maybe a little more, maybe some blue. Some blue in there too. And that's good. That one looks fine. Let's get to the next one. Same colors. Let's kind of just repeat the process. Touch the brush down, hold the brush steady, and slide your hand on the paper going upwards. You can do the whole thing in one go like that. Then come back in. And then maybe charge in a little bit of darker colors like this, here and there. Some warm colors. We use some yellow ochre there on this part there. Maybe a little bit of the orange too over here. And over here, maybe. Okay, and then some blue. So we'll have some blue in there too. So we're just kind of mixing up the colors, make it interesting. Then I rinse off the brush, dry off some of the water, and then maybe just smooth out some of the washes. Like that. Like that. Perfect. We'll slide the phone over a little bit so we can do this wash for this mast. I'll go this way, and now I'll take this and slide my hand down. I got my paper resting on the paper and my board. My board is way larger than my painting, so I always have room to rest my hand as I go around the painting. And then here we go. We're just going to drag that brush on down like that. Same thing over here. Maybe pick up a little bit of blue again. Maybe change it up. Put some blue on there. And then maybe we put a highlight in there like that. And one here too. And like that. And we'll pick up some more of that brownish red. That wood tone color, and I think we're good. We have our masks completed. Those look fantastic. Then we're just going to go right in with some more orange and yellow for kind of like that yellow ochre-y buildings in the back here. You don't want to make these too high intensity because they're in the distance back over here. So we'll just make some of that brick and yellow golden brick colors, and I rinse off my brush, dry off the brush with the tissue, and just can also blot up a little bit of paint there. A little more yellow and brown for yellow ochre. That's yellow and brown. Not too much high intensity though, so we'll keep a watch on that. That looks pretty good. Okay, so that looks fine. Then we can let that set up a little bit and dry. We don't want to start mixing our greens too much in there right now around these buildings, because then it's all going to kind of like cauliflower and blossom and bloom and into this wash here, this yellow warm wash for these buildings. So let's let that set up a little bit, and while we're doing that, we can start doing the shoreline. Shoreline is going to be some green. So I'll use some of this Viridian style green with a little bit of blue. It's a distant shoreline, so we want to keep it somewhat cool. And I'll use some brown too with some blue, with some green. So I'm just kind of mixing up the same colors we were using before, pretty much. And we'll make this somewhat dark, but not too dark. Let's make it a middle tone. And we can just carefully realize these are some trees in the distance along the buildings, and then we can take some of these greens here and get those in there too. But I think we want to keep it more of a bluish green. Definitely want to keep this a blue green, because it's a distant trees and grasses and things over here, and it's distance. It's far away from where these boats are, where we're standing or looking if we're here in the painting. So that's where we can gain an advantage by helping the viewer think that this is a distant hill, because it's cooler looking. So we do that over here. Maybe it's a little thinner there. And now I think we can bring our phone back over. Okay. And then maybe we'll work on we're going to have some, a little bit of a darker tone maybe here. And then we can always make a little, so we could scratch out some, we could always scratch out a little bit of paint for the rigging, like that. And we'll keep working along here like so. That's looking good. We have that shoreline, and let's start going in. We'll do some more trees. We'll get some green. We'll mix our greens right up here, might as well. So this is kind of like our sap green, like a leaf green. Again, distant greens, so we got to make them bluer, cooler. Gray them down a little bit, but more blue and purple maybe in there. I think that'll look good. And then we're going to do that. We're going to start going in with our distant hills. And then what we'll do, our mountains. These are like pretty much like mountains over here along the ocean or river. When we do that, let's charge in a little bit of gold just to give it a little bit of interesting color variation. And that's all I do is rinse off the brush, go in, get some of the gold, dry off the brush, go back in over here, and let's just start. This is kind of an intricate, not really too difficult, but it's a little bit intricate going around the masts of this boat. So that's why I'm using this finer brush, this round brush, the Simply Simmons number 6 round brush, because I think that to try to do this with a large flat brush or anything else would really cause a problem. So you can kind of see it's a little easier to move around and get these washes in like this with the round brush. And then again, we're going to put in some warm colors here and there, just to change the color a little bit. Nothing. Some purple. That looks good here too in the distant mountains. Purple. Like that. So if we go across with that purple, that's going to look really good. And a little bit of splashing there just to have something interesting going on. And then let's trying to think. I definitely want to do darker washes for the water over here and over here too. We did a first wash, but I think it needs to go a little darker. But you know what? I think maybe we'll leave it like this. We're going to leave it a little abstract. We're not going to get too fussy and too I would say I might put some color in here. I'm going to put some color in there. That's too light for water, I think. So let's do that. Let's start working on a little, and I'm going to do this quickly. Here we might be able to actually reuse. Let's reuse some of this paint. And I'm also going to use a mop brush here. So I'm going to take my mop brush and mix up some greens, golds, greens. So I'm just going to use some of the colors here and then add in more blue, green. So like that green with some blue, like that. And let's see what we have here. We're going to use the mop brush. I'm going to rest my hand on the paper, and the great thing about a mop brush is it's got lots of water. So we could just really have a fun time and get a lot of washes in here. Like this, so you can kind of see. And I can, these brushes hold a ton of water, so you can just fill your brush up with your paint, your wash paint, and look at how we can just go and go and go, and how beautiful that looks. And you can get into the rhythm of things, and you stick on the same idea as you're going. Oh yeah, the lines look really nice like that across the water. So you do some of those as you get closer here. You do some of those finer lines. It gets darker too as we get closer to us. The water's going to get a little darker. So we kind of do that, and we just do some of those. And then here we're going to go around the boats like that. I'll get some more darker paint, some more blue, more green, a little bit of brown in there too, maybe a little bit of red, and more green. I'll just keep trying to mix until I get the right look. That's kind of good, a little darker. Kind of that muddy water look. Dark, it's close to us here. You can see that when we have the mop brush, we can really move the paint around, the whole painting quick and really nicely. Like this, and then over here I'll just fill that in. And you can, if you say to yourself, oh, maybe I don't like too many of those lights in there, maybe just a few, that's fine. You can just paint over things if they don't look great, and you have a second idea that looks better. And it's all experimentation as you go. You're going to paint 5 more of these just like this one. So you can experiment with 5 different paintings, just all the same basic idea. And then we have the shoreline over here. And again, I went with darker water. I think it'll dry lighter, obviously. And then here, we're going to do the same thing. And I think I'm going to go in and do the shadowing. Again, the mystery shadow is coming from this side over here. Something over here, another boat or something is parked next to these, and it's throwing a shadow here. So this is like that. And I want to mix up a little warmer colors too. Let me put some warm in there. Warm and cool everywhere. So we don't want to just start putting everything in one color. We could add more orange over here a little bit in there. And let's bring that shadow down like that. And I think that looks fine. Now this is really going well. I would say I could take a little bit of paper towel here and maybe blot this up a little bit like this. Can maybe do a little bit of, loosen that up a bit. And hey everybody, just a quick informational. I'm really excited. I've been invited to the Thousand Island Arts Center to teach a workshop this summer. It's August 9th, 10th, and 11th, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And it's a daytime workshop, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're going to have an absolutely fantastic time. I'm going to put up the itinerary in just a second too as well, but I wanted you to have the Thousand Island Arts Center phone number so you can call to register, or you can also register online. That's up to you. Their phone number is 315-686-4123. Again, their phone number is 315-686-4123. Or you can also register and look up all the information online at TIARTSCENTER.org. Again, their website is TIARTSCENTER.org. I'll put the itinerary up here so you can just, I'll scroll it. I'm not going to read it. I'll just kind of scroll it up so you can kind of see the class description. And you can look this up online too. I encourage everybody to look for the brochure. If you go to the website, you'll see a brochure button. You click on that brochure button, you'll see my course, as well as other courses if you can't happen to make these dates, but you still want to take a watercolor class or watercolor course and workshop. And there's also an online course for watercolor artists. So if you're interested in doing online watercolor courses, they have those as well. That's something this is a great resource, everyone, for your watercolor art. I know some of you mentioned that you wanted to inquire about online art and watercolor painting classes. I'm not doing them right now. I'm really looking forward to maybe in the future doing some online courses, but right now I'm just not not geared up for that right now, so they have them though for those that want to do online courses. But just a great resource, and beautiful historic area, beautiful scenery, water and boats everywhere, beautiful architecture, shopping. There's museums. So that's the itinerary. And I hope you'll all make it out to the workshop. And again, we're going to have a great time, tons of fun drawing and painting in watercolor. So I hope to see you there. And let's get back to our watercolor painting. I'm going to leave that the way that is. And then here we'll go back to the Simply Simmons number 6, and we're going to do a blue and green stripe on the boat with a little bit of the, I think that looks pretty good for the, you know what we're going to do? Let's do a red stripe. Why not? Cadmium orange and red. Make a really beautiful red. Yeah, let's do a red stripe here. Like that. And another one there. And I think that looks good. And we'll also add a little bit of red here and there, just to mix the colors around a little bit. So I'm going to just try to blend in a little bit of that red color. Just a little bit here and there. Because if we just add red to one spot in the painting, that's not going to look so good. But if we add a little bit of red here and there, I'd be really careful though adding it now, because now we're going to start disturbing the wash that we just did. So let's leave this all dry. Let's take a break and we'll come back and start to get the final details in here. We're going to do some blue. We can do a little more blue here for the tarp. So we're going to do an interesting, exciting blue tarp. Like that. You can always see those blue tarps they have on boats when they cover them up, and then they have to take them off when the season's ready to go and everyone's ready to start sailing again. They take off the blue tarps and start working on the boats. So we are going to capture that. And we can also touch up with a little bit of white paint too, once we And now what I do is I just add a little tiny bit of water and color to these boats. Not a lot, just a little bit. And that looks a little better. But we leave, you know, a decent amount of white paper there too. That looks good. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay, and I think we also need this in there too. That's the only thing, when the paper's still wet, you have to be careful, but that's okay. I don't mind that. You can always use a tissue and lift up a little bit of paint if it doesn't go perfect. I'm just trying to get a little bit of that shadow there. Okay, I think we'll do the rigging on the lines once this dries a little more, and maybe a little bit of details on the buildings, and I think that's about it. And then maybe we'll do the red stripe here on the bottom of the reflection here. We could do that now, or actually we just painted that. Yeah, let this dry. Let's let things dry once in a while. I'm telling you, it'll go so much easier. You can kind of see how I once in a while get into trouble when I'm not letting things dry. So let's do that. Let's let this dry and we'll come right back and finish up. All right, here we go. We're going to finish up. I thought about some ideas too while I was taking a break and I was looking at the painting. I thought to myself it might be a little bit interesting to maybe soften up this, get a little more darker. So we're going to go in even darker yet. We're going to get some of that blues, the two blues there that we have, and some browns and greens, a little bit of green, a little bit of brown. So we're going to green, brown, blues. And then what we're going to try to do is maybe get some water just like this. And I think that kind of looks good. Just some choppiness to the water. Like that, just a couple. And then add some water to it. Maybe bring it up into that area there. Then we can use a tissue and lighten up a couple spots like this. You can do a little bit of that. You can even take a tissue and gently do some vertical lines. That gives it kind of a water feel. You can get creative and kind of do different things, try stuff out. It's always better to try some creative ideas every once in a while, I'm thinking. There might be some of that masked over here and over here. Okay. There we go. I think that looks better. It looks more exciting. And it's going to look good too when we put a mat over the top of it. The outside edges give it a little bit of a messy look. But once we put a mat around this, we'll see that in the back at the beginning of the video again. And okay, so that was... And over here, we're just going to do that. A little bit of that red in the reflections. So this one's this way. This one would be kind of this way. Like that, so just a little bit of the red in the water, just to have that reflection. The colors, you want some of those colors in the water that are reflecting down. That looks very good. And I'll just darken these up a little bit. A little bit of warm color, orange and like that. And I think that's good. We'll do some rigging just for so we'll take our needlepoint brush. So I used a couple new brushes here. I realize everyone's building up their brushes and they're, you know, getting into trying out different brushes. You just get brushes as you can. Try a new one out every once in a while. So we're going to do the rigging. So that's going to be brown and blue. That should be good, just kind of a grayish color. And then I take my needlepoint brush and I dry off my brush. And then I just, we just do a little like this. And we do a couple of the rigging lines here. If that one happens like that, quickly do that. And that's no problem. A little bit of issues on the paper are not going to hurt anything. Watercolors are always fun. You never know what's going to happen. Okay, so rigging's in. And then we're going to do some darks here, just on the buildings, the distant buildings. Just so we know they read correctly, these are the windows along the buildings. I'm just going to do them quick. Not too much, just a little bit there, and that looks good. That's looking fine. I put a little bit of dark over here. Maybe that brings a little bit of more interesting feel to where the buildings are. Like that. And that's fine. I think this is plenty good. The only thing we can do now is to add one more thing you can do is you take a little bit of yellow, orange, I guess orange and yellow. Make like a yellow ochre, brown, orange and yellow maybe. And then you just take a little bit of that and mix it into some white and a titanium white. I use some titanium white. And that'll give us our highlights. And then this way you could do some highlights very carefully. Once the painting's dry, I wouldn't do it when the painting's wet, but I'm going to go for it anyway. And you could just do a couple of like this, a couple lines like this. So I need some more paint on my brush here, so I'm going to dip my paint in the brush, and we do some rigging lines like this. And I think if we get a couple of those in like that, just a few spots, so I'm just slide that out of the way. If we just do a couple of those, it looks really good. It kind of feels like there's some sunlight like bouncing off the cables, the rigging lines, the ropes for the sails. So if we just do a few of them, not too many, just a couple, maybe a little bit over here, there, a couple like that. That really looks good. And that's, to me, this is perfectly complete. The only thing I can see is if you went over a few lines, you can, over here I think we went over a line or two that we wanted to sort of maybe capture another. That should be a little bit darker anyway now that I think about it. That's on the shadow side. So what I can do is blot that up with a tissue. And that's good. You could put some figures in the boats if you want. Let's do that. Purple, brown. We'll do some figures here. So we're going to do a figure over here. So this person's over here. We'll do some red. And we'll do another person down over here. Let's do some blue. Okay, so we can do some figures here. They're on the boat, they're working there, getting their boats all prepped to get ready and go out on the water. There's someone over here too. Let's do this person over here. Do a little different colors. Person over here, they're in the red. You can change up the colors and use some white paint and make maybe somebody with a white shirt, or you can kind of take your time and figure out different things you'd like to do differently than I'm doing it. You'd be creative too. So I'm going to put someone over here too. They're kind of they're holding on to the rigging there. And if you have a little bit of, action, like action figures, you maybe I kind of did, I want to have them in a little bit of motion and doing things. If you can, put a little bit of, they're moving around a little bit. Maybe they're holding onto a cable or they're lifting something. You can have somebody, lifting something up or carrying something or whatever, just different. But I think that looks plenty good enough. Excellent figures in our boat painting. Kind of just makes it look perfect now, There's some action and people and interesting things going on with the boats being worked on to get them ready for the season. And I hope you had a great time on this video, in this tutorial, and we'll see you on the next video. And again, if you're just starting out here, please feel free to subscribe. On the bottom of the screen here on the right-hand side, there's a little subscribe button. All that does is just YouTube will notify you when you come onto YouTube the next time, whether it's in a couple days or a week, and you'll just see my video on the top of your list, so you'll be alerted that my new video has been made, because I usually make at least one video a week. So you'll always see my new videos coming up in your YouTube channel when you open up YouTube. And that's it. There's no other catch to it. YouTube just wants you to make sure you're getting the videos you like. So if you're liking my videos and you're really happy and you're learning a lot with watercolors and you're, making good progress, then just you subscribe. This way you're locked in and you're able to follow me each week as we go. And you'll be learning lots of new great stuff. And please feel free to leave comments in the comments section. Thumbs up the videos if you like them. If you like a certain video a whole lot, if you thumbs it up, then I'll know which ones you're really excited about. So all of you out there, feel free, comments in the comments section. I try to always answer my comments, questions, and so we're going to have lots of fun going forward, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.